All right, everybody. I decided just to do a quick overnight camping trip in the van. I am in a region here. It's a Joshua Tree Forest area. It's a nationally designated area just outside Searchlight, Nevada. Searchlight is, oh gosh, I don't know, 40-50 miles, probably about closer to 50 plus miles outside of Las Vegas. And this little area is about 10 miles from Searchlight. I've been coming out here for years. I know the desert's not everybody's cup of tea, but I absolutely love it. And this little spot I'm in here is not too far off of a highway, only about, you know, quarter mile, half mile, something like that. So it's really easy to get to. You could even take like a sedan out here. But it's almost always real quiet, just relaxing. It's a familiar place. Sometimes it's nice to go to familiar places, but let's go ahead and set up the van for some camping. All right, so first things first is I pull my privacy curtains up here on the front and swivel my passenger seat. So I've got my little area there to just kind of chill and hang out. Driving in, I don't eat McDonald's very much, but there's a McDonald's there in Searchlight. It's about 10 miles from where we're at, so I stop and, kind of a little tradition of mine, grab a little bit of McDonald's, get the lights on the camper. The spot I'm in is not perfectly level, but it's level enough. And then I set up my external solar. I've been kind of a big fan of this, and I've talked about this in a bunch of videos recently, but I love the idea. I mounted this port here, so you can just plug it in. I carry, I don't know, it's about 10 foot or so of extra wire. And I've got a couple different solar, foldable solar panels, but this one right here, this company MH Powos, I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, MHPOWOS. This is a 400 watt panel. They sent me this to test it out. So this is a perfect opportunity. Plug this bad boy in at the campsite. We've got the sun, a little bit obscure from the clouds, but rolling down low on the horizon. I like this because I don't even need to worry about which way my van's pointing with the solar on the roof. I can just take out these, plug them in, and get it all directed. So we've got power, we've got seating, we've got privacy. Let's sit down and eat some McDonald's here. Dinner of champions. Well, I don't know, maybe not. But I enjoy it every once in a while. This little table here, if you guys remember, this one folds over the top of the fridge right there. You kind of can move around on this lagoon mount. It's real handy. You can sit right here in the chair where I'm at, kick off your shoes, and you got your food right there. Almost kind of like a little, not quite, but close to like a little TV stand here. Very convenient. All right, so I finished up my dinner of McDonald's, and you know, McDonald's is one of those things that sounds like a good idea. Maybe you enjoy it while you're eating it, but you know, maybe not so much in the end. But this is where we're at. This is Thump, Joshua Tree Wilderness. As you guys can see, I'm just over on one side. You can actually drive this whole loop. If my memory serves me, I think it's like 13 miles or something. But I don't know. I think it's a neat little area. It's flanked to kind of the northeast by what's called the Highland Range. And to our west, the South McCullough Range. South McCullough's peak out at, if my memory's, I think maybe around 6,500 feet. Highland Range is probably only about 5,500. Pinyon juniper up here in the South McCullough Mountains. This is just kind of like a rocky mountain area. There are a number of springs, natural springs in this area. I've explored a few, but we're gonna go take a walk down this little trail here, and I don't remember where I read, but that's funny. I've been coming here for years. I haven't been here in a little while, and I'm just now walking. The trail is actually kind of disappearing a little bit, but the word on the street is, I read it someplace, that this was actually an old wagon trail, and it's just kind of maintained. I don't know if that's true. I read it, probably is. The whole trail is, it has changed a lot over the years, but it is kind of this two-track look here, as you guys can see. Used to be a lot more prominent, but I don't know, maybe it's just the foliage growing up or something. But it's a very, very peaceful walk. You can just walk just a little bit down this trail and kind of feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you guys can hear the road noise in the background, but you know, like I said, about half a mile that direction is the 164. It's dead quiet right now other than those road noise. No wind. There's something kind of tranquil about these Joshua Tree forests. Well, I'll pop in a moment. So I'll tell you a little story. There's a fair amount of coyotes out here. And this was years and years ago. A buddy of mine, probably close to 8 to 10 years ago. A buddy of mine, he showed up. He's from out of town, and you know, we just kind of jumped in and wanted to take a ride just to chat. And we ended up out here about 10 o'clock at night. And you know, again, it's a buddy I hadn't seen for a while, so we said, hey, you know, we ended up out here. And we said, we'll just walk down this trail a little ways. It's dark. And this very trail where we're at now, probably not far from this exact spot here. And we heard, you know, a little howl, you know, out in the distance from a coyote. And then all of a sudden, I hear a bark, just bark, you know, the coyote, I can't mimic it, but the little coyote bark. And it was close. And we both stopped. The howl was in the distance, but that little bark, we were like, holy shit, this thing is really close. We heard another bark. So the first one was like to our right. Heard like a yip. I'm not sure what the best way to describe it. We heard another one to our left, and then all of a sudden, just right in front of us. I mean, it sounded like they were 20 feet from us. Just this chorus of just yips and howls, all just kind of pop into, you know, all come up at one time. And we could tell that we were surrounded at least on 3 sides, because you obviously you can hear the noise and you can kind of tell some directionals, and they were close. Now I've never had a zero concern of coyotes, and you know, still I don't think they're much of a danger, but I'll tell you that being out here late at night, very dark, can't see them, and then realizing that you're essentially surrounded by them, it was a little unnerving. We kind of yelled out a few times, turned around and hightailed it back to the car, and obviously nothing happened. But that was an experience that I never really expected to see. I've never seen since, but it was an interesting one. So how many of you have seen Joshua trees? You mostly see them in the Mojave Desert, which is where we're at now. I grew up in Southern California, but also still part of the Mojave Desert, and these were all around the desert exactly where I lived. Now in Las Vegas, where I live now, Joshua trees exist in parts just outside the city, such as this one. But I think Las Vegas itself is a little too low in elevation. Joshua trees are really interesting They only grow in a very specific elevation range. If my memory is correct, I think it's like somewhere on the 3,500 to 5,500 feet level. And if you ever driven across the desert here in the southwest United States, pretty much all you're doing is driving over a bunch of hills and valleys, or mountains and valleys, however you want to define them. And so a great route, if you go like from 15 freeway from Las Vegas to the LA area, you know, you're crossing straight through the Mojave Desert, Mojave National Preserve for much of that specifically. And you're just going from bottom of desert floor, climbing one mountain, you know, most of them top out 4,500, 5,500 feet, go back down into a valley. And if you are looking out the window and paying attention to the foliage, you'll see creosote bush. I'm trying to find an example right here, right out there. You'll see creosote bushes pretty much everywhere, but the Joshua trees will only pop up in just a very specific band. I get it, Dave, they're ugly. I know, maybe they are. I like them. Maybe it's just a familiarity of growing up around them, but there's something, I don't know, guys, I can't quite put my finger on it. There's something kind of magical about them. Now, they're a very old tree. I've heard varying accounts, but at a minimum, they'll live hundreds of years. And I've heard some anecdotes of them living into like 1,000+ years. Now, I'll probably get this wrong. You can't age them like you would a tree by looking at tree rings. I think they're actually considered, gosh, what were they? Oh, that's right. They're part of the yucca family. So they've got kind of a fibrous, the trunk is kind of fibrous. It's not wood, you know, like a traditional tree. But they can age them. I guess they can establish some growth pattern. And I also believe that, let's go out there and see this one, that all of the individual little spiky heads, a new one is formed every time it flowers or something like that. But my understanding is, and if I have this wrong, please correct me on there, but my understanding is that you can kind of age them not just on their physical size, but on how many individual branches they have. Now look at this bad boy over here. Now I'll say this, some Joshua tree forests you go to, they're very sparse. But I mean, look at this bad boy right here. This sucker is just, it's got little individual branches everywhere. If my understanding of the aging process is correct, this sucker is a grandfather here. Yeah, look at that thing. Kind of a majestic plant, you know. Now, if you guys remember me showing that little map, I was talking about the South McCullough Range, and you could see the silhouette of it way, way out there. As the crow flies, that's probably 6-7 miles from where we're at right now. And I don't know if it'll show up on the video. Let me zoom in. If you look real close, you could see kind of almost like a little sawtooth pattern on top of the mountains. So like I said, those top out, you know, 6,500 feet, something like that. So it's solid pinyon juniper territory. And you guys saw on that map I showed you that there is a little loop trail, or a driving kind of a loop that you can drive on for this. And on the far west side, which is, this is the direction we're looking here, it climbs, you know, probably about 1,000 foot in elevation. So you hit a transition zone between pinyon juniper and the Joshua trees and some of the other desert plants, and it's kind of a really neat little spot. Where we're at right here, we're kind of on the far eastern side of this of the wee Thump area here. A little bit lower elevation, but still really dense with these Joshua trees. Yeah, very neat. Very, very neat. Out here, I'll tell you another story. Let me find a good one here. We get a lot of cactus out here, and this is when I was growing up as a kid. So, like I said, grew up in a town in Mojave Desert in Southern California, and we had these cactus right here. What do they call them? Cholla cactus, I believe. This one's a pretty small one, but sometimes they get pretty big. They've got some pretty nasty spines on there. And actually, I still remember his name. His name was Chris. He was a good friend of mine growing up. And oh gosh, how old were we? 12, 13 maybe. And we're out messing around in the desert and, you know, doing things that kids do. And my buddy Chris is laughing about something and turns around and trips right into one of those big cholla bushes, right on his backside. We took him home, and we were pair of pliers, man. We were picking, you know, those little spines out of his butt all night. Poor guy. Just kind of bringing back some memories here. Now, we're not that far from the van right here, but man, you would never know it. The road noise subsided. Well, maybe it's there a little bit, but even though this isn't super dense like you would see with like a traditional forest, it does, when you get down in it, it does limit how far you can see for things at ground level. Of course, you could still see some mountains and everything peeking out over there. All right. Back to the van. Back to the van. Well, I have you guys here. If you guys look at the top up there, somebody said that was pollen. We had a rain a couple months back, and it just, I had that top really, you know, pretty white, pretty clean, and just came in and left little streaks and everything up there. And in lieu of just sanding it, I haven't been able to get that off. Does any of you guys have any ideas of how to get all that off? Let me know in the comments if you do. These are the panels again. I don't know if I mentioned it. These are 400 watts. So you set these bad boys out and you plug them in. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power. Sometimes I look at the van, you know, I spent so much time getting in and out of it and working around it that I kind of forget how big it is, but you walk onto it sitting out here in the desert. This sucker is it's one big vehicle. All right, so this is cozy in here. I've got my little map light on, streaming some YouTube to the TV. Got some hot chocolate. It's going really well. This fan is super cozy. I feel I'm sitting back here on the swivel chair. I feel like I'm at home in a lazy boy, kind of.